So we've got a little over half of the top 100 decks on confirmed now on the Master Duel meta resource. So I quickly put them all into this little pie chart thing, and first off, right off the bat, you can tell that like there are 3 decks that make up about slightly over half of the field. Then you have mostly like 1 or at most 2 ofs of random rogue stuff, with the exception of one deck type, Tri-Brigade, which I guess I'll talk about a little later. First off, you know, the elephant in the room is Runick Stun was by far the most represented deck. I don't know where the hell they all were because I barely saw any of these. I would have liked to have played more of these. My decks were teched against this, but you know, instead I got all the Floowandereeze players, and so I thought Floowandereeze was. I was clearly wrong that I thought Floowandereeze was dead with Barrier Statue banned, but I didn't think it would be literally the second best deck of this event. Although I will say it, I think a lot of people chose Floowandereeze as a meta call tech against Runick Stun. If you believe Runick Stun was going to be the most popular deck, then you play Floowandereeze because Runick's just banishing all your cards just helps you. Like you basically pick Floowandereeze as a counter pick against a Runick Stun, and you know that was a good choice. So you know those players had the foresight to. Actually, now that I'm looking at a lot of the Flu deck lists, and there's quite a few that. Okay, maybe it was just the. Okay, never mind. They're all still running Shifter. Okay, so Shifter auto wins against everything that's not Runick Stun. But interestingly enough, the highest placing Flu deck did not opt to run any copies of Shifter, since you know that's honestly a good call by this player, because if your most represented decks you're gonna face are gonna be a mirror match and Runick Stun, and that's like what 30% of the meta. You know, you don't need to be maining Shifter and Maxi, just dead cards against the 2 most played decks. So that's probably contributed to why he did the best out of all the other Flu players. Another thing that I was still questioning Flu about was that I thought Flu, compared to the other decks in the meta, especially stuff like Sword Soul or Branded Despia or Adamancipator, like Flu just kind of struggles going second against these powerful combo decks, since it's really hard to play through interruptions on board for Flus, like negation, especially hard negations and stuff like that. But I guess if you're just running into Runick Stun all the time, you know, you don't have to. You're going second is not hurt that badly. And for Runick Stun, so you notice I put the word stun in the name, because at first when I was going over the deck list, I was going one by one, putting them in this Google sheet. So I put in Runick Stun first because I thought, you know, surely there's going to be other Runick variants besides Stun. Well, there's, as you could tell from this page, every single Runick variant was the Stun Floodgate version, with like 37 of the same cards. There's no Joshua Schmidt synchro list. There was no branded Runick. There's no Sword Soul Runick. It was just all flat out Runick Floodgate Stun. So You know, yeah, that gives me hope that they're gonna semi-limit Tisabu. Yeah, we'll look forward to that. Then obviously in the third most represented, we still have Branded Despia. I was figuring that Branded all over like prior to the release of Runick's and like the first week after Runick's release, Branded Despia I think was still by far the most represented deck on, say, the ladder. So, but I kind of predicted that it would not. That would not really be the case for the Duelist Cup, since I've mentioned problems with it before, such as a whack mirror match that like very high variance, but also Brand Despia is not like it doesn't auto win games. You know, it doesn't prevent your opponent from playing the game. It still lets them interact with you. So, and clearly, when your competition are just a bunch of decks here that whose goal is to make your opponent not interact with you, and you let your opponent still have a chance to interact with you, that tends to lower your win rate by a bit over a large number of games. And if we want to look at some deck building trends among the Branded Despia lists. Okay, we got a Crackhead, we got a Giga Chad Grass Branded Despia list. I think this was the only grass one. Let's see. So I'm noticing, aside from the grass list that had to fill up to 60 cards, that a majority of these lists are dropping the Branded Lost package with Mercurier, Albion, and Kit. And honestly, I've honestly started doing the same. Like my update list. I'm waiting for banlist, so I'm not. This is not finalized, but I've cut the Lost package too. Main thing is that, you know, if you get to the point where Lost matters, I was realizing that you were in a favorable position anyways. Once you Branded Fusion resolved, even if they negated your Libellion or your Albion, you just dump stuff to the grave that you can then play with like Banishment or Branded Red, and then you also get dumped Snow occasionally. It's like the games where you were losing or were basically games where your Branded Fusion itself got negated. So like it's to that point, I think everyone decided to just switch their builds to just be able to prevent that situation happening. Just play through a Branded Fusion getting negated as much as possible. So in that respect, Lost became sort of a win more card because it only really mattered after you resolve Branded Fusion. So yeah, as you can see, there's lists with multiple. I believe there's a list with multiple Albion and multiple comedy. Albion dumping Albast to play with Branded and Red, stuff like that. My list, I put Gamma in as another. Gamma is a good hand trap in itself, but Gamma is also an insulation for Branded Fusion. Well, yeah, it's like a slight deck building trend I saw. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's Branded Despia. I think everyone's familiar with what this deck has been doing for the past 2 months now. The next two most played decks, these are the interesting ones I want to talk about. That are Adamancipator and Sword Soul. So we'll get to Adamancipator because that won the whole damn thing. But Sword Soul, it's always, in my opinion, Sword Soul's always been the underrepresented deck in Master Duel. Like in general, by the entire player base. Like I think Sword Soul is, like, it's crazy. It's not necessarily the highest ceiling deck, so I understand for like maybe a a long grindy event like this, that you not having a lack of auto wins against most decks can be unappealing when you have like strategies like Flu and Adamancipator that just win off one card. But Sword Soul has high resilience. Like, there's not very many blowout cards, if any, against Sword Soul, to be honest. Like, Sword Soul plays through Floodgates fine. It, like, you could, like, maybe Max C is the most impactful card against Sword Soul, but at the end of the day, they just only give you 2 draws and still end on 2 interruptions, like, at worst. So, like, there's not like, Brand Despia, like, there are blowout cards when resolved against you, like Super Poly, Called by the Gravebringer Brand in red, or like an Ash Blossom on Brand Infusion on certain hands is like super high impact. Like, there's not many of those types of like auto lose or like lose conditions with Sword Soul, especially if you're a experienced pilot of Sword Soul and you can navigate all the lines. Like, there's always at least some sort of thing you can do for every situation. If you saw Pax recently uploaded a video where he went 20 straight wins with Sword Soul, yeah, like, good pilots can do that with the deck. And for Adamancipator, I gotta. This deck is like crack cocaine. Like, Adamancipator, Block Dragon, Grass Mill, Block Dragon. Just, yeah, go first, GG. Yeah, that's. I will admit, it's not necessarily the. I don't think it was the actual best deck of this event. Even I think it's more of a. I think it's actually a step below the top 3. It's just that the person that won, I think, grinded a shit ton more than everyone else. And, somebody said the top one's name is a slang about doggy styling a block dragon. Doggy styling a block dragon? Yeah. He's just solid rocks, brothers. Yeah, I guess it's kind of, can get kind of wonky if you're Adamancipator and you lose a die roll against, say, like a Runick that sets a bunch of floodgates and like resolves Runick Fountains. And I believe in hand trap wise, it doesn't run too many hand traps. Like, it's literally the Maxis and the Ash, which is literally just an anti-Maxi card, and the Biru, which is not live against any of the top decks except Sword Soul, and then random cross-sell targets. Like yeah, if you lose die roll against Runick Stun, you're gonna resolve a bunch of their draws and probably draw into Floodgates. So it's yeah, losing the die roll against that can be kind of eh. And Flu is like, they're on Shifter, if they resolve Maxi, you know that's the main thing about Adamancipator. You just gotta avoid, if you don't get Max Seed, I think you're golden. But if you do get Max Seed or Shifter, that's a turn ender. So it's, not to mention, like, with the X-Suite and stuff, it's like it's a weirdly high variance deck with just a bunch of auto win cards on your side as well. And so I want to talk about the 5 Tri-Brigade decks. There were 2 brand variants and 3 Lyrilusk. So I kept running into Lyrilusk Tri-Brigade decks for some reason. I don't know why. And I got smoked by every single Lyrilusk Tri-Brigade deck. Like it wasn't even close. I will lose I won the die roll or lose the die roll. They would have to, let me find one. Yeah, they would just have the hand, because bird call, warbler, all this stuff that like plays through, like it plays through 1-for-1 interruptions and stuff. Like you need like floodgate light effects to really effectively stop it. And you know, my maxi never resolved, so I never had one of those. I just had to keep 1-for-1ing their plays, and they always had more gas than my interruptions. So yeah, this deck's DUELIST Tri-Brigade's really good. It's this and like the branded Tri-Brigade variants, I think is like a happy medium of a deck that has a decently high enough power ceiling to where if you resolve your combo, that should be enough to win the game most of the time. Like 3 to 4 plus interruptions and a few draws, and your engine's not too big to where it's not like Adamancipator where you don't have much room for much tech options. You have a lot of space for tech options still, like at double digits amount, so you have ways to hedge against losing the die roll and stuff like that. Yeah, I honestly wouldn't really should have considered playing Tri-Brigade. Like it's a solid deck. I think it's that and Drytron are like what I consider among the best of the quote unquote rogue decks saw this event. As Drytron's another thing. Drytron plays through interruptions like no other, and it has auto win combos, and while true it doesn't have as much space for tech options because you need a big engine for consistency, you run like a lot of higher impact cards too. Like Herald of Orange Light is like pretty much I think the highest impact hand trap there is that you can run. It's like a gamma that doesn't restrict you if you already control a monster, so it can get called by it, so that's kind of odd, but like it's so much more powerful than all the other generic hand traps. So I don't know what Konami will make of this. You know, what I see is a deck abusing a shit ton of floodgates, but I don't know how Konami will look at it. And I got a lot of decks that I want to update for the meta, but I know I'll still get the diamond right now, but I know there's gonna be a ban list soon. You know, maybe even 2 like they did last time. So I want to wait and see what Konami thinks, you know, and see and wait for the mess of a ban list that they're probably gonna create.